Hey everybody, Austin back again with another Longplay video. Today it's going to be the infamous Silver Surfer for the NES. Now I say infamous because this isn't really a terribly popular game, or at least not a popular game in this day and age in terms of the retro gaming community. In a positive light, Silver Surfer is almost unanimously seen as a bad game. And I think part of that is not so much that it's actually a bad game, and actually has some really good production qualities. It's got good visuals, it's got one of the most kicking soundtracks on the 8-bit NES, and one of my absolute favorite soundtracks in the system. And it's got quick, responsive gameplay, but it is extremely difficult. It is a very memory-heavy game, and if you don't want to put the time in to learn some of the enemy patterns and how the game operates, and if you're the type of person that is a bit squeamish when it comes to difficulty, this game probably won't be for you. But if you're the kind of person that grinds away at their games and gets better and better bit by bit, the more they play it and the more they persevere at it, and Silver Surfer, I think, you might want to give a try. But yeah, Silver Surfer, like I said, is almost unanimously seen as a bad game in the system, but like I said, it's actually not really a bad game. It's just so difficult, people hate it. As simple as that. And you know what? It's not even that difficult by other shoot-'em-up standards. It just requires memorization, much like an R-type game. And even if you die, which I do in this video, this is by no means a perfect run as usual. If you die, you can recover. It's really hard to, but it's possible, and you will see that in this video. I demonstrate it perfectly in this video. Pretty much failing, but then managing to succeed still in the end. So, here we go. We've already jumped into the first stage. One of the cool things about Silver Surfer is that you can sort of pick your routes in the game. You've got 5 different main stages to play through, or worlds, or bosses, I should say. In each world or stage theme actually has 3 other levels to play as. So, total, there's actually 18 levels in the entire game, which is actually, it's a pretty good length for an 8-bit NES shooter. I mean, games like Life Force don't take nearly as long to get through, and the NES also has some other relatively short shooters as well. But Silver Surfer is definitely one of the ones that is of a pretty decent length. And the game's actually, stage design-wise, it's full of variety. It's got a lot of different stages you go through, so it's not like you're just regurgitating the same kind of format over and over again. Silver Surfer, much like games like R-Type and Gradius, you do have to watch out for basically your surroundings, and that is one of the issues Silver Surfer does have. I have to, give it to people for that. Silver Surfer, as you can see, he's actually really big on screen. And, well, I guess it's not so much that he's really big, it's that with how the environments are drawn and set up, he doesn't have a lot of room to maneuver. Like, all those sequences right there, or all those sections where you see my bullets aren't going through the walls, those are walls that'll kill you. And, not really kill you per se, but you'll fall off your surfboard, somehow, and, you will die, you will lose a life. So, yeah, so there's a lot of things, like, that Silver Surfer can touch and pretty much just knock him off and make him lose a life. And on top of the sometimes fast enemies that just kind of fly out at you, it can get a little difficult. I should say, it can get a little uncomfortable. So, but again, this is the kind of game where the more you play it, the more you understand how it works, and the more you don't make kind of dumb decisions and purposely run into a wall or something like that, or walk into that frog's tongue or something like that. You kind of analyze the environment and, you act accordingly. So we are pretty much at the first boss, mini-boss, I should say. The main bosses are at stage 3 of each little sub-world or universe or whatever you want to call it. So that's, yeah, that was section 1, and now we're on section 2. Now, one of the other cool things about Silver Surfer, and probably one of my favorite aspects about the game, is that it rotates between these side-scrolling sections and top-down sections. Every level in the game, or every world in the game, has at least one top-down section, which is pretty cool in my opinion. The top-down sections, I think, are actually more fun. They're usually not as difficult as the side-scrolling ones, which is a relief. And, What's great is that in the top-down sections, and I don't know why they didn't implement this in the side view sections, but you actually get two options, two side options, or at least I'm calling them options because they're like the options in the Gradius series, that basically extend your firepower and double, or in this case, triple your firepower, and that's the power-up right there. It's really, really nice in the side-scrolling sections because you can cover so much more screen space and mow down enemies a lot faster, and that's, again, it's a really nice welcome change of pace, especially after playing some of the more difficult side-scrolling segments, like on the Magic Realm, which is the last stage in the game, as well as Mephisto's Realm, which is, that can be tough. If you let yourself get off guard in Mephisto's level, you can royally be screwed. Same with, I want to say it's, yeah, the Fire Lord as well. I think it's Fire Lord is what they call them. We'll find out shortly. So yeah, you know, kind of, you know, sidetracking a little bit, Silver Surfer, I'm going to reminisce a little bit. Silver Surfer was actually an NES game. I actually had the luxury of playing as a kid quite frequently. One of my best friends actually had this game, and he was the only one I ever knew that owned this game. But we hung out so much, and then we would swap cartridges and whatnot. I played this game a lot as a kid, so a lot of the patterns and so forth are sort of just ingrained into my memory. Some aren't, and I have to kind of readjust myself as I play the game, but you know, a good portion of the game, I still just, it's kind of like muscle memory for me, and you know, through being able to play it as a kid, I think that's why I really enjoy the game still. I really like Silver Surfer. It's it can be very frustrating, but again, it's the kind of game, if you put in the time, you shouldn't have too much of a problem with it. And here's our first actual boss. Not too difficult. And but yeah, as I was saying, I mean, I played this game a lot as a kid, and you know, which means I still like it as a grown adult, but there's a lot of people out there that are going to play this game for the first time in 2013 or 2014 or whenever they want to play it, and just hate it. But I've kind of got the benefit of having been able to play it as a kid, so I have a little bit of nostalgia for it, but I also know how the game works, so I mean, my outlook on the game isn't just completely fueled by nostalgia. It's, I know how to play the game, and in my opinion, games are so much more fun to play when you know how to play them. Especially difficult games. Difficult games are way more fun when you know what's coming up and you know what's happening, or what's going to happen, and you know how to react to it. Because games, quite frankly, in my opinion, aren't all that fun when you're just dying left and right, and you feel like you have no control over the game. But that's where practice comes into play, and you know, almost sometimes I think it's unfair to judge a game and or negatively talk about a game without really having learned it, or at least given made an attempt at learning it, at least slightly. You know, I have games I've played in the past, and this is kind of like ranting a little bit. I've had games where I've played in the past where I've given every ounce of effort to them, trying to learn them inside and out, and still failing miserably and never being able to complete them. And you know, once you get to that point, it's like, yeah, I think I've kind of got the right to say, yeah, this game kind of sucks. I don't like this game. But if you play a game like Silver Surfer and you die twice, throw in the controller and say, man, this game blows, you know, worst game ever made, I don't really think that's really a valid statement. You haven't really given it much time at all. And I think a lot of video games are actually like that. So Silver Surfer definitely is. But yeah, you know, this is definitely one of those games I've revisited quite frequently over the years. Not, you know, on the same level as like Ninja Gaiden, but it is a game I will go back to, probably play a few stages here and there, and then I'll die a lot, and then be like, yeah, I'll come back to it some other time. And but when I do get really familiar with it, I have a lot of fun just rolling through the game like I did here. I did have to do a few practice sessions before I was actually able to beat the game again, because it had been a little while since I last really played the game. And so this playthrough is actually kind of a result of that practice. Some stages like this I don't think are very difficult. I mean, as long as you just stay in position, you kind of have a general idea of what's coming up. Like, I know these guys are going to be pretty much acting as turrets and firing at me. And you don't want to run into their bullets because you will die. But they're not really hard to get around and to destroy, especially if you have your options. Now, if you don't have your option in the side-scrolling sections can be way more difficult. I mean, having that double firepower makes all the difference in this game. And it's really good to learn where the options are in case you do die, because you're going to need to pick them back up to sort of get back on your feet. This is the kind of game where you have start back mode, which means if you die, you basically essentially get shot back to a sort of invisible checkpoint, and you will permanently respawn at that checkpoint until you advance further and reach another checkpoint. So Silver Surfer, much like some of the Gradius games, you can get royally screwed by dying and just, you know, having to restart at a really inconvenient checkpoint where enemies are just flying at you from all sides, but you don't have an option. Your firepower is weak. As you can see, I've actually maxed out my firepower, so each shot I have has sort of like a fire stream behind it. And that is when your firepower is really powerful. However, when you first start, your firepower is nowhere near as powerful. And, I mean, it doesn't really look all that much different, but when you start off and your firepower is at level 1 and you don't have an option, oh man, it is very difficult. Especially if you die in like Mephisto stage or the Fire Lords or someone like that. It can get frustrating very quickly, and it could get very difficult, very hard, I'm sorry, to recover. And again, as I said earlier on in the video, you will see that demonstrated later on. I don't remember if I die or not at Mephisto stage. Actually, I think I do. I think I die on level 2 of Mephisto's realm. And, you know, it took me a few times to recover from that. But I had actually died at pretty much the same spot in one of my practice sessions. So I was kind of, you know, a little more familiar with how to recover from that. So, but if I had died at a different part, it would have been a completely different story. We probably would have had another Abadox session, guys, where I pretty much spent a half an hour continuing at the exact same segment. I managed to get through it in that Abadox Let's Play, but that was kind of frustrating. And probably boring for you guys too. So, many stages have multiple pathways. As you can see, you can go from the top or the bottom. On this one, I actually prefer the bottom. It's easier. It's just easier. Simple as that. Guys keep coming out of the doors at the top. You've got the ghosts coming out, and they just constantly come out, and you have to sort of time where you place your Silver Surfer in terms of when and where they come out from. So the bottom path was easier there. And I take the bottom path a lot throughout the course of the game. So, again, these ghosts, you can see, they come out once every like 3 or 4 seconds or so. So you just kind of have to sit back and then, you know, base your movements around that. Pretty much all enemies in the game have a very set pattern and timing. For instance, like those gargoyles that sat on those walls there. They will pretty much just sit there, and you have enough time to attack them before they actually come off their perch. However, if you let them come off their perch, they fling around the screen at full speed, and you will probably die. So, but knowing that they act that way, you can, you know, base your course of action around that. The second you see those guys, you really want to go for them. Simple as that. And that's how a lot of enemies are in Silver Surfer. Enemies have very specific patterns. Once you know those patterns, you should be able to get through the game without really too much of a problem. Now, I actually have a really stupid death here right towards the end, and it doesn't really look like I should have died, but I did. I remember this. It would look like, what? That shouldn't have killed me. But we'll see in just a few seconds. I think it might be right here. No, I remember it's on the silver or white section coming up. Now this part can be kind of frustrating. You've got these hands inside the walls, and they shoot out. And I honestly, oh, I almost died there. I honestly have no idea how these guys operate. It just seems like they're kind of randomized. So you know, sometimes you can kind of get screwed at that section as well. That was an extra life that just went off the screen. Yeah, this is where I die. Bam! You know, it's like the farthest most pixel of the enemy hit the farthest most pixel of my ship or my surfboard, and I died as a result. So, you know, much like, say, Gradius 3 or something like that, the hit detection is very, very precise in this game, unfortunately. Well, it's better that it's really precise than it being imprecise in a negative way. Like, your hitbox is too big and you die from bullets that you don't actually touch, you know. So technically, I think I did touch that enemy, but it was literally just 1 pixel touched 1 pixel, in the game registered it as a hit, and I died. So it's just very, very precise hit detection. Alright, on this part, you've got these sort of like insect-looking things, and some of them, those ones in the very beginning of the stage especially, will blow up into like 5 or 6 of them. And what I recommend doing if you get stuck at this part, so I think I die here at least once. If you get stuck at this part, you definitely don't want to attack them. You really just want to attack the first 2 enemies or so, because right behind them is a fire power-up, and you definitely want to grab that. See, that's 1 death. If you get to Mephisto right here and you died and you have pretty much no firepower, see, there's the fire power-up. And I'm going to dodge these guys because they're just not worth going for. You're going to kill yourself if you try to. I try to focus on the little insects that come out of his mouth because, yeah, they start coming out really fast, as you saw in that last, you know, attempt. And they will kill you really quickly. So I try to focus on them and just to stay safe. And then I'll have the few bullets that kind of goes past them and it hits Mephisto and does damage to him as well. So that's a strategy I use if I had no fire power-ups. That's a speed up icon, so now I go a little bit faster. The speed up is really handy in this game, especially as enemies get faster. I mean, there are some enemies in this game that I honestly feel do move too quickly, and if you die and you have to recover, it's just completely unfair. You've got these enemies that move like 5 times as fast as you. You just can't keep up. You can't even dodge them if you wanted to. Like, if you want to just try to avoid some of the enemies, you can't because they move so quickly. So that's where the speed ups definitely come into play. But it's kind of a shame when you die and you don't have the speed ups. Now this stage really isn't all that difficult. And there's another extra life. I'm already up to 8 lives. I mean, that is just nice. I think I end up beating this game with like 7 or 8 lives or something like that, which is crazy because I think I died quite a few times at the final stage, and that final stage, you'll see, it's really difficult to recover from. And again, I mean, practice makes perfect, but it is a tough stage. You've really got to know what's coming up in front of you, otherwise you're going to have a hell of a time trying to get through it. Pretty much simple as that. It's just it's like a gauntlet, you know, a gauntlet of enemies, a big rush of enemies. A big rush of enemies in sort of small, enclosed environments that you have little room navigating through, so. Realistically, this is probably one of the guys you want to tackle first, because he's not that, obviously you can see his stages aren't that challenging. There's not that many enemies, so it's really not that intense compared to other stages in the game. So realistically, you know, if you're not that great at this game, I would probably recommend trying to play this guy's stage. Because yeah, I mean, as you see, it's just a few turrets here and there, and it's really not that tough to get through. The same could be said for this section here, well, except for the beginning. Now, there's going to be some guys that are kind of walking down here, and they do shoot, so you don't want to stand directly in front of them. You will probably get shot by their projectiles. Just like that. One guy shot. There's going to be some more. Now, I picked up another option. Now, despite having 2 already, you still want to pick up every power-up you can, because when you're maxed out already, you get points. And points are really good in this game, because you get extra lives from them. Just like a lot of, arcade-style games from the time period, you do get extra lives from points. So, points do have a point, and you get extra lives from them. And that is just crucial in this game, because I want to say if you die and you get a game over, you have to go back to the very beginning of the stage, which in some cases can be beneficial, but in other cases, like Mephisto's level, where it's just crazy amounts of ghosts just flying at you right from the get-go, it's not always so convenient. So, I mean, you kind of want to keep your lives up if you can. So kill everything you can, pick up every power-up you can, especially after you're maxed out already. Now, another reason I say grab as many extra lives as you can, because if you're like me and you like to sort of try to beat games without continuing, at least, I know there's a smaller handful of people that are a little more hardcore and prefer to no-death run these games. But if you're the kind of person like me that just likes to beat games without continuing, for survival basically, having extra lives is really key in games like this. Look, I have 9 lives right now, and so the more lives you have, the better chances of you actually completing the game and meeting that goal of, not continuing. Now, it's not like we're cheating. It's not like we cheated to get those 9 lives. We were sort of awarded for playing well, so to say. So we got one more stage, and then we're at the final level already. Now, I say already like, it's only been a couple minutes. It's actually been about 20 minutes since we started playing. So, I mean, this game is of a decent length. I mean, the game will probably take you about, depending on how many times you die, anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes to complete it, which is a decent little romp for a shoot-'em-up on the NES. NES shoot-'em-ups usually weren't all that complicated compared to, 16-bit shoot-'em-ups in the next generation, or I should say the generation after the NES, or even the generation with the NES in terms of like the TurboGrafx 16 and PC Engine in Japan in particular. But Silver Surfer is definitely one of the more involved shooters in the system, that's for sure. And, not everyone's going to like this game, but if one thing I think this game should get credit for is kind of how involved it is as a shoot-'em-up. It's, there's just a lot to it. You've got the side-scrolling stages, the vertical stages, lots of different enemy patterns, lots of different enemy types, different bosses. You've got, it's just, yeah, there's just a lot to it compared to some other shoot-'em-ups on the system. So, most certainly not everyone's going to enjoy this game, but, not counting that factor, I think it's a pretty hefty shooter for the NES. So, one of the things I really like, as you can see, is you can move your options back and forth, and there's another extra life. I think your extra lives actually go over the maximum 9, so even though it says I have 9, I think I actually have 10 or 11 right now, and I think it actually calculates that. I guess we'll find out when I die. So, this stage can be pretty tough. This is a level where you really have to know what's coming up. Like, you have to know when those little pumpkins are flying out from the lava below, because they will kill you quickly. I don't know why I'm saying that. I mean, every enemy will kill you quickly in this game. All it takes is one hit. There are no shields, no nothing. Although this game definitely could have benefited from having shields. I don't know why that wasn't an option in the game. Maybe Silver Surfer didn't have shields in the comic. I have no idea. I've never really read the Silver Surfer comics or seen his appearance in other Marvel comics or other comics. So, yeah, this game definitely could have benefited from having shields. Big time. So just take your time, sit back. Sometimes sitting back is the best answer. Sit back as far as you can. Sometimes it doesn't work because enemies will come up from right below you or behind you, but that doesn't happen that often. So for the most part, you can kind of sit farther back in the screen or on the screen and you'll be good. Another extra life. You know, it's got a little icon by my lives now. I don't know what that stands for. Is it, yeah, that's interesting. That might mean I have the maximum amount of lives the game allows me to have, so... I don't know. I don't think I've actually ever seen that before. Now, I've got my option positioned downwards because of the pumpkins that come out from down below. And I've actually had a problem in the past where, you know, I'm focusing on killing these green pillars up top that stream lava down. And then a pumpkin just comes up right underneath me and knocks me off. Pretty much completely catching me off guard. So... So again, this is one of those games where once you kind of learn the enemy placement and patterns, you can kind of like prep yourself. And the great thing about having your option that you could position downwards and backwards as well is sort of prepping yourself for what's coming up. So... This guy can actually be really difficult to recover from as well if you die here. Some of the bosses in the game are like that. Again, it's really handy when you have maximum firepower. Something I haven't mentioned yet is you do have bombs in the game. You use those by pressing select, and they'll pretty much clear everything off the screen at once. And do just a tiny bit of damage to things like bosses. So, if you're in a tight situation, use your bombs. Especially in the beginning of the game, you get a bunch of bombs. You start off with one, and then you get a bunch of them through the first few stages you play. And don't be afraid to use them at least once or twice. You know, you definitely want to save one for a really tight situation, but... as you saw earlier on in one of Mephisto's stages, I actually used one of my bombs to get past a part I probably would have died at again. So, bombs definitely come in handy. Don't be afraid to use them just to progress on. Sometimes it's easier to recover after a death from the beginning of a stage versus the middle or end. And, so you can use your bomb to get through a difficult section, finish the stage, and then start fresh from the next stage where you might have more power-ups thrown at you or something like that. Now, I don't remember if I die at this first stage. Actually, I think I do. Yeah, I probably die pretty soon. Or maybe I get lucky and I just blaze right through it. But I don't think so, because we have about, 12 more minutes of video footage to record a voiceover on. And so it definitely doesn't take 12 minutes to get through the rest of the other two stages, so I must die. I honestly don't even remember right now. Huh. Oh yeah, I remember that now. Frustrating. It looked like they smacked me in the head too, and it's just like, bam, right off the surfboard. Now, power-ups in this game always appear in the same spots, so you really kind of want to know where those appear as well. And you'll learn where they come from as you die in mid-stage and have to respawn halfway through the level. So I knew that that fire power-up was going to be there, and then I knew that option was going to be there as well. See, I used my bomb because I knew that those guys were going to be really difficult to take down without having max firepower, so, you know, it was better to just use the bomb, get through the section, and I don't think the rest is going to be that much more difficult, as long as I have, you know, my option. The options, again, are really crucial. You know, double your firepower, basically, and double the width at the same time, so... I want to say I die here one more time at the sort of mini-boss. Yeah, because I had my options pointed down. If I had my options pointed forward, I would have been fine. But I had it pointed down, and that was totally my fault. And it looks like my checkpoint was farther on, which was actually kind of a bad thing because I had no way to recoup. Like, I have no firepower now. And I've got to go through all these enemies again. I might even die a couple more times here, I don't remember. But this is a perfect example of how the game could be rather frustrating. You just literally, you get screwed. I mean, you have to start back and you've got everything working against you. Especially like right here. Realistically, I should have saved my bomb, because looking at the footage now, I know those green things that I used my bomb on previously would have just flown over me. I could have just sat there and I would have been perfectly safe, so... Whoa, that was close. A little too close for comfort. Got him. Yeah, that's an example of a stage that could be kind of tough to recover from if you aren't really familiar with it. Fortunately, I had done some practice sessions again before doing this run, and so I had died at that stage a bunch of times previously, so I had already kind of gone through the tribulations, the trials and tribulations, so I think I die here. Yeah, that looks like I shouldn't have died. I didn't even touch anything. So that kind of sucked. Fortunately, this is not a part that's that difficult to recover from. You do get an option, and your options, man, they just make a world of difference in this game. And as you can see, one thing I like to do is just constantly fire. I don't even wait for anything to come on the screen. I mean, some players, you know, don't like that style. They want to wait until an enemy comes out and be very precise and just shoot out the minimal shots needed to take out the enemy and then wait. Because obviously there's a little more skill involved when you do that. But I don't really play like that. I just... If a game lets me mash my firepower all the way up the screen like so, and the game can be a real pain in the ass to recover from if you die, then I am going to keep firing up that screen. Simple as that. It might not be as skillful as what some other players do, but that's just my preferred way of playing a game. maximizing my enjoyment out of the game, so to say. Because again, dying left and right can get frustrating, and it's just my playstyle. So if you're new to this game, I highly recommend just playing like this. Just keep firing in this game. This game, again, enemies can take a lot of hits to take down, especially when you're not maxed out in firepower like I am mostly right now. So that is something you have to keep in mind in this game. So you need every shot you can get on a lot of these enemies. Now that guy, that sort of crab thing, always comes down in the same pattern when you first get to him. So he basically kind of comes down, loops over to the right, then back over to the left. So when I first got to him in my practice session, I totally forgot about that boss. And it looked like he was chasing me, like homing in on me. But in reality, he was actually just following his pattern, and I just happened to be dodging in the exact same pattern. It was kind of creepy. I was like, oh no, this is one of those bosses. It's going to be just homing in on me, and I'm going to have no chance. But no, that's not the case. So he always goes around in sort of the same pattern. So going up will give you some more firepower, but I actually don't need more firepower. There's going to be faster enemies up there, so I wanted to play it safe and go the bottom route. The bottom route's easier as long as you can, you're okay at dodging things. As long as you're dodging set patterns. That's just something I actually wanted to mention. If you look at those sort of elephant-looking things, it's actually kind of a gruesome image. It's like peeling the skin off of it, and that's, when I was doing this long play, I was like, wow, I never really noticed that before. That's actually kind of gruesome for an NES game. Like, I guess Nintendo just had no idea that was in the game, because they definitely would not have let that fly back in the day. They were very anti like gore and stuff like that. In the late 80s and early 90s. So I just found it funny that, playing this game in 2014, like, seeing that was slipped through. So this is actually the final boss in the game, surprisingly. He's actually not that hard. He pretty much does the same pattern all the time. You definitely want to get over him so he doesn't shoot you with his upwards diagonal shot. Now, after about the halfway point, he does start like running in much faster. He puts out more like machine gun streams of bullets, and you'll see that. I don't think I die at him. Yeah, there we go. But he does take a lot of hits, so I mean, it is a grind. It's just, oh man. There we go. And that, everyone, is Silver Surfer for the NES. We have basically just completed the game, start to finish. So there's going to be a little bit of an ending sequence, and then that's it. That's the whole game. Again, I'll go ahead and just talk about my opinions some more about the game. I mean, as I mentioned earlier on in the video, I actually kind of like Silver Surfer. I played it a lot as a kid. So there's that nostalgia factor, but I've also played it a lot to where I don't have a problem with the difficult sections, not too much of a problem anyway. So, I enjoy the game. If you enjoy really difficult games, you might want to give this a try. You might want to give it a try anyway. I think that the game, again, has a great soundtrack. One of the biggest and most booming soundtracks on the NES. It really is kind of impressive how nice it sounds. And, it's also got some decent visuals, some cool stages and whatnot. But like I've mentioned as well, it's definitely not going to be a game for everybody, that's for sure. Yeah. So anyway, guys, that's it. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. As usual, I want to say thanks for watching. I've got a few more long plays up my sleeve, so stay tuned in the coming weeks for those. I'll have those uploaded in the next coming weeks. And until next time, guys, take care.